How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather SpongeBob 1000, and in this video, we're gonna focus on the next potential snowstorm for the Northeast that could happen anywhere between Friday night into Saturday morning. So first, let's take a look at the European model. So we have seen some interesting changes with the computer model. So of course, we had this snowstorm move through the Northeast, and in fact, did bring snow totals that were a bit heavier than expected, thanks to a specific snow band that developed I'll say right up along the Interstate 78 corridor that brought around 8 to 10 inches of snowfall in that small area, which is definitely much higher than the 4 to 6 inches of snowfall that was forecast from this storm system. But now this storm system has moved to the east, and it's definitely going to make the temperatures at least closer to average, if not slightly below average, over the next few days right over the Northeast, and that could contribute to our next potential snowstorm, since it'll be able to have a decent amount of cold air to work with. But continuing to move forward with the forecast, like I talked about yesterday, there is expected to be a ridge that's going to build right over the eastern half of the United States, but it's not necessarily going to be strong enough to completely diminish the possibility of a snowstorm developing. Continuing to move forward with the forecast is a Wednesday time frame. We see rather dry for the most part, but eventually, I'll say right around the Wednesday to Thursday time frame, this storm system should move through the Midwest, and we're going to see another trough at the same time move further southward, enhance the cold air and instability for the possibility of a snowstorm to exist. Now, based on the latest run of the European model has shifted away from the possibility of a snowstorm, at least as of the latest run. However, look at the forecast hour I'm going at. We're still 150 hours out, and there's still easily that possibility we could see a little bit more cold air than anticipated and still see a significant snowstorm right over the Interstate 95 corridor cities, like we've been seeing with a prior run. So don't completely rule out the possibility of a snowstorm happening in the Northeast, because I still think it's certainly in the realm of possibilities when we're talking about forecasts this far out. We're just gonna need to see a little bit more cold air, which is certainly possible to build over the Northeast before we could confidently say there's going to be a major winter storm. And even if there isn't, let's say, a significant winter storm, this storm system will still be rather strong. It's going to have millibar pressure. It's going to hover around the 980s, which would mean that this storm system would bring a gustier amount of winds right over the east coast of the Northeast, as well as possibility of coastal flooding. And eventually this should be a significant a northeast snowstorm. The question remains how quickly that will occur, because in this scenario we see that the snow doesn't develop until it's well to the north of the Northeast, and it's mainly impacting eastern Canada. We're going to need to see the cold air move a little bit more quickly to the south before we can say that there's going to be a snowstorm in the Northeast. But when it comes to the timing, if we were to see a snowstorm in the Northeast, like I said, it would happen anywhere between the Friday afternoon to Saturday morning time frame. That's when you should expect the worst impact. So just in case, if there is a snowstorm, you definitely want to be aware of that for your Friday evening commute or your Saturday morning commute, since there's certainly a possibility we could see snowfall. But taking a look at what the 500 millibar height anomaly is stating at this point when it comes to this storm system, because I'll give a bit better indication of what will determine the possibility of a snowstorm. So moving forward with the forecast, it's fairly similar to what I said yesterday. We see that the big difference in this run is that this trough that the European model initially forecasted to move down south towards northeast is staying well to the north, thanks to this ridge being a little bit stronger than anticipated. If we were going to see a major winter storm in the Northeast, we're going to need to see this ridge disintegrate a bit, or at least move a little bit far east enough to allow this trough to have an open lane to move further southward to enhance the northwesterly flow and to enhance the amount of cold air right over the Northeast, because we see that this ridge will prevent the cooler Arctic air from being able to move further southward, since the winds would primarily be moving more from a westerly direction rather than a northwesterly direction, which would pull that cold air a little bit further southward. So in this latest run, the European model isn't expecting the trough to move south enough to the point where we're going to see a major winter storm. And while it eventually does so, it happens way too late. By that point, the storm system will be already towards eastern Canada, and there won't be any precipitation in the northeast for the possibility of snow to exist. So we're definitely going to need to see this ridge weaken a bit more to be a little bit more confident we're going to see snow in northeast. And taking a look at the latest run of the GFS model. The GFS model is showing a forecast that is very similar to what it was stating yesterday. The GFS model is expecting somewhat of a similar forecast to the European model. Again, we're going to need to see if this holds up, but the fact that they're both taking at least some sort of nor'easter to the northeast makes me believe that there will be a nor'easter. The question remains if it'll produce a heavy amount of snowfall and the exact trajectory of this storm system and who will get impacted the most by the snowfall. So those are the big questions that remain with this storm that remain to be seen. So definitely stay tuned for more updates, but we see the timing is almost identical to what the European model is stating, and we see that this primarily only impacting the interior northeast with some snowfall. So it's definitely going to be a very interesting forecast. Taking a look at the GFS's model's version of the 500 millibar height anomaly, you're going to see that it's a fairly similar forecast. We see that this ridge is just a little bit too strong for this trough to be able to dig in and bring that cold air further southward. So we're definitely going to need to pay very close attention to this ridge over the next few days. But let's say the GFS's model's forecast was completely correct when it comes to snowfall accumulation. So if we were to move forward with the forecast, we see that this will primarily bring snowfall to the interior northeast, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of snowfall to maybe 6 to 12 inches if you're in the higher elevations, such as the Adirondacks or the White Mountains of New Hampshire. You definitely need to watch out for the possibility of 6 inches of snowfall. It's still uncertain if this is the amount of snowfall you're going to see, but I'll say, of course, like almost every snowstorm in the northeast that's over 5 days out, the most likely scenario is that the snowfall will impact the interior northeast. The question remains if this will be able to move far south enough to impact the coastal northeast. So definitely stay tuned for more updates. I'll keep you guys updated over the next few days because this could be a pretty impactful snowstorm. So in terms of the possibility of huge snow totals right up along the coast, it's a bit too early to say for certain. I am confident we're gonna see a nor'easter, but we're definitely gonna need to. But it's definitely a little bit too far out to say if these northeast cities will experience snowfall. So just make sure to stay updated, stay tuned. I'll certainly keep you guys updated. And yeah, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather related content, and I hope you guys have a great day.